Hi, my name is Ricardo Wyngaard, and in this video I want to talk about the first principle of the King 4 Code on Corporate Governance. It's about leadership. Now, if there's one principle that stands out for me, it's this principle. And I believe it's so important for organizations. It can make a big difference in the governance of any entity. And there are some ethical characteristics that are set out in the principle, which, if organizations comply with it, I think it's a very good start. Now, they focus on 4 outcomes. The first is an ethical culture. Secondly, good performance. Thirdly, effective control. And lastly, legitimacy. So the code refers to the concept of ethics or ethical governance a couple of times. And I thought it's important to know what it means when it refers to the concept of ethics. And there's actually a definition. And the definition basically says that the golden rule is treat others the way you want to be treated. There's even a definition for culture. And in the context of King 4, it means this is how we do things even when nobody else is watching. So let's look at some of these ethical characteristics as set out in King 4 under principle number 1. The first one is integrity. A very important ingredient for any organization is to build the governance based upon integrity. Now, under that, the recommended practice, and it's also captured in the Companies Act, is that the board must act in good faith and in the best interest of the company. And a second recommended practice is that board members must avoid conflict of interest. If it cannot be avoided, it must be disclosed to the board. Now, those 2 practices are important, and looking at some of the governance failures, just if boards comply with those 2 practices, in fact standards of conduct for governance, it could make a significant difference within companies. The second ethical characteristic is competence. Now, King 4 recommends that the board should have a sufficient working knowledge regarding the context of the organization. That includes laws, codes, and rules applicable to the organization. So the organization should be proactive in developing the skills and competencies of board members to exercise their governance function. Now, to do that, King 4 recommends that the board should continuously develop the competence of board members. And that's important. It's been something I've been advocating in videos because there's a lot of development taking place in the external environment. New laws are coming into operation. Some of those laws are applicable to your organization and require some level of compliance. And it's important for board members to be equipped in order to fulfill their governance responsibility. The next ethical characteristic is responsibility. The board is responsible to govern the organization and to lead the organization strategically, and also to account for its overall performance, which leads to the next ethical characteristic, which is accountability. The board must answer for the execution of their responsibilities, and that includes even tasks that have been delegated to either a committee or to staff members. The board is still responsible to answer for the execution of their governance responsibilities. The next ethical characteristic is fairness, and King 4 refers under this characteristic to stakeholder inclusivity, and that's especially important for non-profit organizations. In fact, inherent in what organizations are doing is their commitment to their stakeholders. the beneficiaries of the organization, the donors. There are different levels of stakeholders within the organization. And that must be taken into account, which I'm sure most organizations do, but it's important to reflect that in your reporting. There's a lot of emphasis on reporting. And then lastly, linked to the issue of reporting is transparency. Now, the board must exercise its governance responsibility in a transparent way. And one of the ways of ensuring transparency is through reporting. And this is, such a significant development since the King 3 Code on Corporate Governance, where the concept of integrated reporting has been introduced. Now, I've seen a lot of organizations have not yet embraced the concept of integrated reporting, where in essence you report on different aspects of the organization to enable your stakeholders to have a good understanding of the performance of the organization. And that includes reporting on governance. If you look at some of the integrated reports available on the internet, you'll see there's a lot of emphasis on good governance. Now, the governance must be or should be based upon these practices and principles that I've referred to, and which would make a huge difference for organizations. Now, if you're authentic in applying these practices, I think this principle is a good start for the organization, demonstrating leadership to the organization internally and also to those outside of the organization. I hope this video has been helpful. Please like if you do like it, and please share. Thank you.